Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This video is gonna be focused towards people that are brand new to mountain biking, that, well, they're either just starting or they've only been going for a couple of months maybe. So that's where, this video will be towards them. So if you are a rider with more experience, this is not really gonna be any advice for you, because you will very likely already know this. But this is basically a list of 5 things, plus a bonus one, of things that I wish I knew and learned the right way, right away. And it's just small little things, but they will help you out a lot in the riding and get you more comfortable and get you up to speed a lot faster than if you don't do it and you don't learn the right way. So yeah, thing number 1 is you should always have one finger on each brake. And I think this is something that takes a little while for some people. It did for me. I would say that it took, well, at least 4, maybe 5 months or something from when I first started riding until I actually started to use my fingers on the brakes. Because it does not sound like a lot, or it shouldn't sound like it does make a lot of difference, but having your fingers like this and having them here, it does make a difference in time. It could literally be the difference between crashing and not crashing, that tiny bit that it takes for you to move those fingers up and start pushing the brake levers. And it gets you more comfortable. You always have your fingers on the brakes. It's a lot easier, a lot more comfortable to stop. You can modulate the brakes a lot easier than just like panic, lift your fingers up and then press them. It could turn into a crash just because you panic and slam the brakes way too hard from being stressed about reaching the brake levers in time. Yeah, it's a small one, but it actually helps so much, and it definitely gave me confidence when I started to do that. And I remember myself that at first, because I did this myself for a long time, for me it felt like, well, I'm never gonna be able to learn this. It's way too against my nature to hold the handlebars like this. But eventually I just learned, and now it feels weird not to do it. Even to the point where even when I'm pedaling up towards trails, when I'm out in the woods, even then I hold my fingers on the brakes just out of pure habit. So now it's the other way around. Now I can't imagine not doing it, because it feels so natural. And I know when you start out, it's gonna feel like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to hold on to the bars. I need all my fingers on the bars to feel comfortable. Trust me, just try to get used to it, and you will realize that it does not feel weird at all, and you have more than enough fingers on the handlebars to be able to do it properly and hold on to the bars without any issue whatsoever. Although it might feel a bit alien to start off, trust me when I say this, you will definitely get more comfortable and used to it very soon. So the second thing also actually has to do with the brakes, and it's a very important part of the riding, to get comfortable with the brakes, because otherwise you will, being able to brake, funny enough, it makes you a lot faster, because having the confidence that you will be able to brake will mean that you dare to go faster, because you know that you can brake in time and effectively. So the second one is that you should use front and rear brake. And to some people this tip might be obvious, some people might do it right away. For me, for example, I did not do this. Same thing. I think I maybe started around the same time that I started using my fingers on the brakes all the time. Because when I were younger and I just biked to school and stuff, I only used the rear brake. I never ever touched the front brake, because to me it meant going over the bars or risking going over the bars. And I was never in a situation where I really needed to brake super hard anyways, so to me it came natural to just use the rear brake, and that's a habit that I had with me into mountain biking. And I actually did a small little test here. It's a very simple, primitive one, but it shows you what a difference it actually makes. So let's show you guys that real quick. I will do a simple little brake test just to back up what I'm saying. First go, I will only use rear brake. Second attempt, I will only use front brake. And third attempt, I will use front and rear to basically show you the difference. I will start up here. I will try to do it as fairly as possible. I will take 2 cranks and that's gonna be it. And there's a rock further down where I will start braking. So like I said, I will just take 1 and 2. And yeah, it doesn't go very fast, but it's basically just to show you guys. So as you can see, I can find some kind of stick. It's gonna be pretty primitive, but it's basically just to show you guys. So here's the indication stick. I don't know if I maybe braked a little bit early, but you can see where I started braking, so I would try to do the same thing. So yeah, let's go up for front brake only. So attempt number 2. So 1, 2, and then roughly. And as you can see, I made it a lot shorter. My front wheel is basically where my rear wheel ended up before, so I'm in 1 entire bike length ahead in terms of braking distance. So yeah, now let's head up and see how it's looking when I use both the brakes. So last thing, or last test. So there's my 2 cranks. And as you can see, it's even earlier. And you might say, well, you didn't brake at the rock, but this is where my first tire mark started, so I ended up starting braking there instead. And as you can see, it's even shorter than front brake only. So basically, never just slam the front brake. That's very important. That I think the best thing is obviously to work in tandem with rear and front, because yeah, if you only rely on front brake and you press it too hard, you're just gonna go over the bar a whole lot. So I'm not saying it like, yeah, you just only rely on front, but I think this test really shows at the same time how much of a difference it actually is in terms of front and rear brake. And you mainly just slide a lot with the rear, so yeah, I think it's a simple, very primitive test, but I think it still shows you guys how yeah, what the difference actually is. So as you can see, super simple test, nothing like high budget or anything, but I still think it proves the point that the front brake helps you out so much more than the rear brake. The rear brake, basically, you just slide, you lock up and slide, whereas the front brake, the tire digs in more and yeah, really grips. And yeah, once again, by being able to learn how to brake properly with both of your brakes makes you so much more comfortable to go faster, because you will feel like confidence that, okay, I can actually brake in time, I have the control. And yeah, just train on modulating the brakes. Another tip, this is kind of a bonus, it's not really its own thing, but try to modulate the brakes as much as you can. Don't try to not lock up, because then your brake efficiency will go down. So you should always aim towards not braking and locking up. Your goal should always be to let the tires roll as you're braking, because then your tires will grip a lot more, it will be more effective, you will be able to stop faster. So that's tip number 2. Make sure that you use both brakes, not just one, because it makes sense. Using both brakes will give you more braking power. So third one is use proper protection gear, because that's something that I see a lot of people that are new. They go into it to maybe only buy a helmet, and well, I guess that's good, but I ride with knee protection, I have a chest and back protection, I have a full face helmet that I use all the time. I know that a lot of people use half shelf helmets, which is good too, but I feel way more comfortable having something that protects my face fully. So I always ride with a full face helmet. And if you're new, I fully understand that you don't wanna like smash out a lot of money right away on expensive gear. My tip here is basically to go to bike parks, because they should rent out gear, protection gear for you, so that you have proper gear to protect you when you go out, because it does help a lot in confidence as well to know that you have protection and a good protection, and having like chest and back protection. It could literally be the difference between a broken bone and just a scratch. And once you have a crash and you realize it could have been a lot worse, that's when you feel like right away that every single penny is worth it. Protection gear is something that I never want to cheap out on. It's incredibly important to feel protected, and once you do have a crash, you will appreciate the fact that you actually spent that money. That is something as well that it is really, the more inexperienced you are, the more you actually need the gear, because it might sound a little bit weird, because as you get more comfortable you will go faster, and obviously the risk of hurting yourself increase by speed. It's just logical, but it's also the fact that if you go faster, you get more comfortable, you have better technique, you will be less likely to crash because you are more comfortable riding, so you will make less mistakes. And that's something that it came to my surprise when I talked to a guy, like I said, in my local bike park that worked there, that he said that the most injuries were actually the red jump trail, which makes sense, it's a sizable jump trail, but it's also shared with #1 spot for the green flow trail Luascoana, which is the easiest trail without any necessary jumps. You can jump if you want, there are jumps there, but basically the reason why the amount of injuries is higher there is because it's the trail that people start off on, and if you don't have the technique, if you do things wrong, you're likely to fall and hurt yourself. So to my surprise, the green flow trail is actually one that injures the most people. That's also ties into the point that you are more likely to fall in the start when you're brand new. So that's also a reason to right away try to wear proper gear, because you will be thankful for it once you have a crash. So point number 4 is that try to find someone to help you out, maybe through a clinic where you get taught the basics, or some other mountain bike training, like a club or something, because that's something that I wish I did right away, that if you learn the proper way, you will have the right technique going into it and developing. There are some things that when I started, basically I learned from scratch by myself, and I watched some YouTube videos, but I never had someone in person to teach me. And it's, sure, you learn some things on your own. The problem is when you learn things wrong, and you then have to go through the whole process of unlearning it. Basically your brain will be used to it, and then having to reprogram and learn it the proper way. It's so much more effort and time than just getting the right technique right away and learning it the proper way. And that's something that I wish I did, that I got someone to teach me right away, because jumping for something, for example, that's something that I wish I learned properly right away, because I had the wrong technique, and then I've had to learn it from scratch, unlearn it, and then basically try to learn it again. And that's a big part of why I'm struggling with jumps, because I had the wrong technique and I had to start all over again. And it takes a lot of time to have to go through the whole process of learning it the proper way. So that's also a big tip if you're getting into it that try to find someone to teach you the basics and in the correct way, rather than guessing, learning it the wrong way, and having to go through the process of relearning everything, because it takes a whole lot more time than just learning it the proper way and having a good baseline in terms of technique. So tip number 5 is make sure to look far ahead. Basically, I'm still guilty of this in some instances. I know that when it gets rough, it gets really steep and technical, I tend to look down and see where I have my wheels, sometimes to the point where it's way too much. Basically, you do want to always look ahead and plan your lines, because that's exactly what happens if you look down. You only see like, right beneath you. And it might work for the short term, because you might get the wheels where you want in that specific place. But then you realize that, oh, now there's something else coming up, and that might be already too late to try to plan your line. And you basically just end up wherever you're going already. By looking up, you can see that, okay, now I have a choice. Which line do I want to pick? You can plan to aim towards that specific spot, instead of just ending up kind of wherever the trail takes you. And it helps a lot with control and feeling in control, that you're picking the lines, it's not the bike picking the lines for you. And it's a lot easier obviously to do it on flow trails, because there's not a whole lot going on underneath. It's just it should just be dirt basically, and pretty even. But it's something that applies to technical trails as well. Try to look ahead, try to plan your lines. Am I going into a lot of routes? Can I avoid that? Just keep on looking ahead, and you will notice that you will get more comfortable and you will pick way better lines than if you're just down here all the time. And that's one that helps me out a lot as well. So the last one is one that kind of applies to riding, kind of not, and it's to pick a good bike right away when you buy one and get into mountain biking. It is a bit of a tricky one if you have no experience in mountain biking, and it for sure was for me. I myself bought a trail bike, and I realized pretty soon that that was a big mistake. Because to me, like, when I went into it, 130 millimeters of travel and 120 rear travel, it doesn't really, you don't really understand those numbers until you actually get into it and start learning. And if you do know about mountain biking, you know that for enduro and downhill, that does not really cut it. So a trail bike is basically more towards riding out in the woods, where it's not just downhill, it's also uphills, and wood riding where it's a bit more flat and you need to go up and down, because then you don't need as much travel. If you have too much travel, it will eat up a lot of energy when you pedal, because the force of you pedaling will go, a lot of it will be soaked up into the travel basically. So having less travel there is it's beneficial basically. But for going downhill, you do want more travel, because that bike did not handle bike park riding very well, because I just bounced up and down because the travel couldn't handle it. Basically every time I came back from the bike park, something was weird or funny with it. Either it was could be the gears being messed up by all the bouncing. It could be a lot of different things, but basically a trail bike is not for bike park and enduro riding, where you ride specifically downhill. So if you are interested in riding the same as me, which is enduro and downhill, basically where you go down the slope and you do not pedal so much, and you're going over jumps, you're going over rough terrain, you either want an enduro bike, which is what I currently have, or you want a downhill bike. The downhill bike I would not recommend if you're going into it and you're brand new, because then a downhill bike, it's amazing to ride on with, but then you pretty much have to ride specifically bike park only, because it's not a bike that you pedal up. It's in the name. It's a downhill bike, and it doesn't have gears to really be able to climb. The seat is often not located in a way that makes it comfortable to sit on and pedal. Yeah, if you have a downhill bike, or if you plan to buy a downhill bike, your goal should be to ride bike parks and bike parks only, pretty much, unless you can shuttle up to some spot with some friends, I guess. That would work too. But buying an enduro is probably the best bet if you want to buy a bike and ride the same things as I do, which is enduro and downhill. Then I would recommend buying an enduro bike for your first bike, because it's kind of the perfect middle ground. It still has a lot of gears, so you can still climb with it well when you're out in the woods. It still has a lot of travel, so you can still ride fine with it in bike parks, and it handles all that kind of stuff well as well. So I would say find an enduro bike, and also if you want to have some kind of hunch of what travel you want for that kind of riding, I would say minimum should be around 150 millimeters front and rear. I would ideally want a little bit more, but it's just personal specific. I know that a lot of people ride with 150, and that's more than good enough for them, and they're happy with it. So yeah, I would say that that's like the minimum for bike park and enduro riding. And also another bonus tip to this is to look at the second-hand market. There's a lot of good bikes that are just like 2-3 years old, that are sold on like Facebook Marketplace, for example, that are very capable. If you're brand new, you won't really need a bike that is like super modern, most up-to-date parts and everything. Like, you will not probably notice a difference anyway. So buying a bike that is like 3-4 years old, you can still get a really good deal. And it's also a good way to not like, once again, just spend a lot of money on something and then realize that, oh, okay, this was not really for me anyways. So it's a good way to just get the bike to try it out with, that's still very capable and you will have fun on, and you don't feel like it's holding you back too much. And then if you really get into it, obviously you can try to look into buying a new, more modern bike. If you really get into it and more comfortable and you realize that it's something that you want to do. But yeah, I would, like I said, highly recommend an enduro bike for your first bike, if you aim to ride the same kind of trails and the same kind of style as I do, for your first bike. And that is pretty much it. So I hope that this helped someone out. For sure, if I heard these tips, it would help me out at start. It's simple tips, like I said. It's tips that, like I said, if you have been riding for just like half a year, you should maybe know about all this stuff anyways. But for someone that's brand new and is looking to get into it, or is just getting into it, I feel like these tips will help out a lot with confidence, and just being able to go a little bit faster with some confidence. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.